The teacup slipped from Martha's trembling hands and shattered on the cafe floor, spraying porcelain pieces in all directions. Hot liquid seeped into the cracks of the wooden floor, unnoticed. Gasps came from nearby tables. A waitress jumped. Someone called out, "Are you okay, ma'am?" But Martha didn't hear them. She was frozen. Staring. Heart pounding. Because the woman who had just walked into the cafe looked exactly like her daughter. Same curly brown hair, same slender frame, same almond eyes that used to light up when she laughed. Her coat was a bit too thin for the cold weather outside, and her eyes darted across the cafe nervously, as if searching for someone. But she wasn't searching for Martha. She didn't even see her. 15 years. That's how long it had been. 15 silent years since Emma had walked out of their small apartment, slammed the door, and disappeared. And now, here she was, or someone who looked hauntingly like her. Ordering coffee at a counter just 10 feet away. Martha's stomach turned. Her hands shook violently. She stood, knocking her chair over with a loud thud, and stumbled toward the restroom without a word. Her knees nearly gave out. She locked the door behind her and stared at her reflection in the mirror. Pale skin, hollow cheeks, eyes wide with disbelief. Was she hallucinating? No. That was her. I know my daughter's face. Even after all these years. I'd know it anywhere. Tears welled in her eyes, but she held them back. She hadn't cried over Emma in a long time. She'd trained herself not to. Life had gone on. Friends had stopped asking about her. Even her sister had said, "Maybe it's time to let go." But you don't let go of a child. Even when they throw you away. 15 years earlier. Emma was 17 when she left. The arguments had started long before that, first over small things, then over bigger truths. The day Emma found out her father wasn't biologically hers, everything shattered. Martha had planned to tell her gently, maybe after her birthday, but secrets have a way of slipping through cracks. Emma's fury was volcanic. She accused Martha of lying, of betrayal, of stealing her identity. But what truly ended everything was what happened after Emma moved in with Richard, Martha's ex-husband, the man Emma believed was her real father. He had manipulated her. Poisoned her mind. Told her Martha was unstable. That she'd tried to ruin his life. That she was dangerous. And Emma had believed him. One final fight. A slammed door. And then, silence. Back in the present, Martha washed her face, took a deep breath, and left the restroom. The woman was still sitting at the far end of the cafe now, sipping coffee alone. She wasn't wearing makeup, but there was a softness in her features. A tiredness, too. Maybe life hadn't been kind to her. Martha returned to her table and sat down, not taking her eyes off her. She couldn't be certain. The resemblance was uncanny, yes. But after 15 years, maybe she just wanted to see Emma so badly that she was seeing her in a stranger. But then something strange happened. The woman tucked her hair behind her ear, and it revealed a small crescent-shaped birthmark near her jawline. Martha gasped. Emma had that exact same mark. She used to try to cover it with makeup in high school. Martha's hand flew to her mouth. It's her. It really is her. What now? Should she go speak to her? What would she even say? "Hi, I'm the mother you abandoned. Do you remember me?" And what if she didn't want to be found? As Martha hesitated, the young woman stood up with her coffee and walked, directly toward her. Panic surged through Martha's body. She's coming to me. She recognized me. But when the woman reached her table, she only offered a polite smile. "I'm sorry," she said gently, "but are you okay? You looked kind of dizzy earlier." Martha blinked. Her mouth felt dry. I'm fine, she stammered. Just a little shocked. The woman tilted her head, concerned. Are you sure? You dropped your cup. Yes. Thank you, Martha whispered, eyes studying every inch of her face. The woman paused, clearly unsure whether to leave. Martha forced the question out. You look so familiar. Have we met before? She smiled politely. No, I don't think so. What's your name? Martha blurted. There was a pause. Elise, the woman said cautiously. Elise Turner. Martha's heart nearly stopped. Turner. That was her maiden name. Emma had taken her father's surname when she moved in with Richard. But Elise Turner? That couldn't be a coincidence. I knew a Turner once, Martha lied. Are you from around here? Elise shook her head. Not really. I moved here last year. I grew up, kind of all over. All over? Elise nodded. Foster homes. Group housing. That kind of thing. Martha's world tilted. Foster care? But Emma had never, unless. Her breath caught. Were you adopted? Elise shrugged. No. Just floated around, really. Don't remember much from when I was little. Martha's vision blurred. Was that why Emma never came back? Was she put into foster care, and forgot everything? Or was something worse done to her? Martha nodded, trying to hold herself together. Well, it was nice meeting you, Elise. You too, Elise replied, giving her a final warm smile. Then she walked out of the cafe, unaware of the storm she'd left behind. Martha didn't sleep that night. She sat on her bed, wrapped in a blanket, going through old photos. School pictures. Vacation snapshots. Birthday parties. Emma as a baby, a little girl, a teenager. And then the last one, her graduation photo. That was the year everything crumbled. She looked closer at that photo. Same cheekbones. Same slight gap between the front teeth. Same gentle expression that Elise had just a few hours ago. It had to be her. But how? Why did she say she grew up in foster homes? Who erased her memories? Or lied to her? Or, was she pretending? The next day, Martha went back to the cafe. She waited. 3 hours later, Elise returned. Same coat. Same soft walk. Same distracted look in her eyes. This time, Martha approached her. Elise, she said. The girl turned, surprised. Oh, hi. I was wondering, would you mind sitting with me for a minute? Martha asked gently. There's something I really need to ask you. Elise hesitated, then nodded. Okay. They sat across from each other. Martha's voice trembled. Have you ever had strange dreams? About a woman singing to you at night, maybe something about stars? Elise's eyes widened slightly. Yes, she said slowly. That's so weird. I do. Always the same song. I don't know where it's from. Martha swallowed. Because I'm the one who used to sing it to you. Elise stared at her. No, she whispered. That can't be. I'm your mother. Elise shook her head, standing. No. That's not possible. My record said my mom died when I was 5. Martha's heart cracked in two. That's not true. I never died. Someone lied to you. For a long second, Elise just stood there, frozen. People in the cafe were chatting, sipping coffee, typing on laptops, unaware that two lives had just collided in a way that neither could explain. I don't understand, Elise whispered. Her voice was faint, trembling. You say you're my mother, but that's not possible. I don't remember you. And the files, the reports, they said my mom died when I was little. Martha nodded slowly, holding her emotions in place like glass ready to crack. I know what they told you, she said quietly. But it was a lie. I never died. Elise stepped back as if the air around her had turned heavy. She blinked several times, looking at Martha with a strange mix of fear, confusion, and something else, something deeper. A flicker of something lost. I don't know you, Elise said, shaking her head. I know, Martha whispered. But I know you. And I never stopped looking for you. Not once. 15 years of silence, now broken in less than 15 minutes. Elise sank into the chair slowly, as if her legs no longer trusted her. I don't understand, she said again, rubbing her temple. I was 5. I barely remember anything. But I always thought my mom was dead. That's what they told me. Martha's hands trembled on the table. She fought to keep her voice steady. You were taken from me, she said. I tried everything, lawyers, police, child welfare, but Richard, he filed false reports. He told them I was unstable. He told them I abandoned you. And somehow, they believed him. Richard? Elise echoed. Who is Richard? Your father. Or, the man you thought was your father. He's not your biological dad. Elisa's mouth opened slightly, as if something inside her had cracked without warning. That name, she murmured. I've heard that name in one of the reports. Just once. Placed under temporary guardianship of Richard. That was the line. Martha leaned in, desperate now. He convinced the system I was dangerous. He kept you from me. But he didn't keep you. He gave you up. After a few months. You were sent into foster care, and no one even told me where. A slow horror washed across Elisa's face. I was passed around, she said. Homes. Some good. Some, not so good. No one ever came to claim me. No one ever came. I did, Martha choked out. I kept coming. I filed reports. I filed missing person requests. They said you were safe. They said I had no rights left. I was broken, Elise. I lost everything when I lost you. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Elise didn't say anything. She just stared at the table, her breath shallow. Then she whispered something so low Martha almost didn't hear it. I used to have dreams. Martha looked up. Of what? Of someone singing. Humming something about stars. I thought I made it up. Martha's lips trembled. I used to sing that to you every night. You'd hold my pinky until you fell asleep. Elise looked like she had been punched in the stomach. I remember that, she whispered. I never knew where it came from. I thought it was a dream memory. It wasn't, Martha said, her voice shaking. It was real. They sat there for what felt like hours. Martha didn't push. She just let the silence sit between them like old dust, thick and heavy, yet familiar. Eventually, Elise stood. I need time, she said quietly. I don't know what's real. Everything I've believed, it's all falling apart. I understand, Martha replied softly. Can I contact you? Martha quickly wrote her number on a napkin, her fingers trembling. Elise took it carefully, folded it, and tucked it into her coat pocket. Then she turned and walked out. Just like that. That night, Martha sat on the floor of her living room, clutching a photo of Emma from when she was 5. Curly hair tied in pink ribbons, wide smile missing a front tooth. She hadn't been able to hold her daughter in 15 years. Now she'd sat across from her. Heard her voice. Seen the confusion in her eyes. And she had called herself Elise, the name she must have been given in care, or maybe the one she chose to distance herself from her past. Martha wondered, would she call back? Would she come again? Or would she vanish, again? 3 days later. The knock on the door was soft. Martha opened it slowly, and gasped. Elise stood there, coat zipped up to her neck, hair a little messy, eyes red. "I don't know why I came," she said. Martha blinked back tears. "I'm just glad you did." They sat on the worn old couch in silence for a long while. Then Elise took a deep breath. "I spent the last 3 days reading everything I could find about my childhood," she said. "I requested full files. Some were blacked out. But some things matched." "Like what?" Martha asked carefully. Elise took a paper from her bag, a copy of an old report. "Mother is emotionally unstable. Child to remain under temporary care of father, Richard Langley, until investigation is complete." She looked at Martha. "That's you, right?" Martha nodded. "They said I had a mental breakdown. It wasn't true. I was depressed after the separation, but I was never unstable. I never hurt anyone." "Then why would they believe him?" Martha's eyes welled. "Because he knew how to act. Charm people. He used your love for him as a weapon. And when you moved in with him, he convinced you to stay silent." "I barely remember any of it," Elise said. "But I found something else." She pulled out an old photograph. It was faded, but clear enough. A woman holding a little girl, pink bows, laughing eyes. The woman looked like Martha, only younger. "This was in the bottom of my childhood case file. It wasn't supposed to be there. It's labeled biological mother. Elise looked up, her voice shaking. "I don't know why I feel what I feel. But when I saw this, it felt like something in me broke open." Martha reached for her hand. Elise didn't pull away. They spent hours that night talking. About the songs. About the books they used to read. About Emma's old stuffed bunny named Mr. Buttons. And then Martha asked, "Why Elise? Why not Emma anymore?" Elise hesitated. "When I entered care, they gave me a new file. A new name. At first, I fought it. Then I stopped. I guess. I stopped being that girl." "You never stopped being her," Martha said, voice thick. "You just forgot who you were. And I don't blame you for that." Elisa's eyes glistened. "I feel like I'm standing in 2 lives. One where I was alone. And one where I had someone who loved me." "You always had that," Martha whispered. "Even when you couldn't see me." Later, as Martha stood in the kitchen making tea, Elise wandered into the hallway. She paused by a small wooden cabinet with family photos. She picked up one, a young girl in a Halloween costume, dressed like a sunflower. "I remember this," she said aloud. Martha turned, startled. "You do?" Elise nodded slowly. "I remember this dress. I remember being mad because I wanted to be a witch, not a flower." Martha laughed through tears. "You threw a tantrum so loud, the neighbor came to check if you were okay." Elise smiled faintly. "I didn't imagine it." "No," Martha said. "You didn't." But the moment was cut short. Elisa's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen, her face paled. "What's wrong?" Martha asked. Elise hesitated. "It's a number I haven't seen in years." "Who is it?" She held up the phone to show the contact name. "Richard." The phone screen lit up again. "Richard, incoming call." Elise stood frozen in the hallway, her breath caught in her throat. The same name she barely remembered but instinctively feared. The man who had disappeared from her life when she was just a child, and the one her mother now claimed had torn them apart. "Are you going to answer it?" Martha asked from across the room, her voice quiet but tense. Elise didn't respond right away. The buzzing continued. Then, silence. The call ended. Elise looked up, her hands trembling slightly. "I haven't heard from him since I was 8. I didn't even know this number still worked." Martha walked over slowly, cautious not to overwhelm her. "Don't call him back. At least not until we understand what he wants." But even as she said it, she saw something in Elise's eyes, a need. Not for Richard, maybe, but for answers. "I don't remember much about him," Elise whispered. "Just flashes. His voice. The smell of his cologne. He used to bring me jelly beans. I don't know what's real and what I made up." "You were a child," Martha said gently. "He played a role in your confusion. A dangerous one." Elise held up the phone again. "What if he has answers about what happened to me? About why I ended up lost?" Martha hesitated. "He twisted everything. If you speak to him, you need to be careful. He doesn't tell the truth unless it suits him." Elise looked down at the screen. A minute later, the phone buzzed again, this time, a voicemail alert. "Should I listen to it?" she asked. Martha's chest tightened. "If you want. But maybe put it on speaker." Elise nodded, heart pounding, and pressed play. A soft beep played, followed by a familiar voice, deep, calm, too smooth. "Emma, if that's still your name, it's Richard. I know this is a shock. I didn't expect you to pick up, but I hoped you would. I've heard things. That you're in contact with Martha. I thought she might have reached you eventually." Pause. A long breath. "She'll try to fill your head with stories, but you deserve to hear both sides. I loved you like my own, you know that. I did what I had to do. To protect you." The message ended. Elise stared at the phone, her face blank. "Protect me from what?" she muttered. "From my own mother?" Martha crossed her arms tightly. He always thought he knew best. Even when he was breaking things beyond repair. Elise turned toward her. "Did he ever hurt you?" There it was, the question that had been floating beneath the surface since part 1. Martha's expression changed. She sat down slowly. "Yes," she said finally. "Not with fists. With silence. With control. With lies. He chipped away at my confidence for years. Made me believe I wasn't fit to be a mother. He used my honesty against me. When I told him the truth about your birth father, he turned that into a weapon." Elise absorbed the words like they were made of glass, sharp and fragile. "Why didn't you fight harder?" she asked, her voice trembling. Martha flinched but didn't look away. "I did, Elise. I went to court. I filed reports. But every time, his story was more polished. More believable. And after he gave you up to foster care, no one would tell me where you went." Elise's voice was barely a whisper. "So I became Elise. And I never saw either of you again." That night, Elise couldn't sleep. She lay on the small guest bed in Martha's house, staring at the ceiling, replaying the voicemail over and over in her head. Richard's voice had been calm, but too calm. Like someone who practiced what to say before calling. "I did what I had to do." She didn't know what that meant. But something inside her said she needed to know. She got up and quietly stepped into the living room, where Martha had fallen asleep on the couch. Elise stood there for a moment, watching her breathe. There was peace in her face, but also years of tiredness buried beneath. Without waking her, Elise picked up her phone. And called the number back. The line clicked after 2 rings. "Elise?" Richard's voice was instantly there. Warm. Familiar. Like no time had passed at all. She didn't answer right away. "Elise," he said again. "It's you, isn't it?" "Yes," she said cautiously. "It's me." A long breath. "I've waited years to hear your voice," he said. "You don't know how many times I wondered what happened to you." "You gave me up," she said flatly. "No," he replied quickly. "That's what they told you. But it's more complicated." "Then explain." There was silence on the other end. "I was forced to," he said finally. "After your mother, after the court case. They questioned my ability to keep you. Said I'd manipulated things. It wasn't true, but they didn't believe me. You were taken. Placed into care. I tried to get you back." Elisa's fingers curled around the edge of the table. "Why didn't you find me?" she whispered. "I tried. But after a while, they blocked my access. They said it was in your best interest. I let it go. I shouldn't have. That's on me." His voice changed then, softer, more intimate. "I missed you. Not a day passed that I didn't think of you." Elise was silent. Then she asked the question she'd been avoiding, "Why did you say my mother was dead?" A pause. "I didn't," he said. "They must have added that to your file when you entered the system. Why didn't you correct it?" He didn't answer that. Instead, he said, "Can we meet?" Elise blinked. "Why now?" "Because I need to tell you something. Something about your mother. About what really happened. And why she might not be telling you the whole truth." The next morning, Elise told Martha about the call. Martha looked heartbroken but not surprised. "I knew he'd try to twist it," she said. "He always knew how to play both sides." "He says he wants to meet," Elise said. "He says there's more." Martha didn't say anything at first. Then she said, "If you want to go, I won't stop you. But I'll ask one thing." "What?" "Take someone with you. Don't go alone. Just in case." Elise nodded. "Will you come?" Martha's eyes widened. "You want me there?" Elise looked down. "I don't know who to believe. I don't know if you're telling me everything. But I think I need both of you in the same place." They met Richard 2 days later in a public park near the edge of town. He looked older, graying hair, thinner frame, but his eyes were exactly as Martha remembered, sharp, unreadable. "Elise," he said warmly when she approached. She stayed close to Martha but gave a small nod. "Richard," she replied. He looked at Martha next. Still the same. Always trailing behind. "Still alive," Martha said flatly. "Despite everything." Richard gave a tight smile. "I never meant to hurt you. You meant to erase me." He looked at Elise. "I told you. I was trying to protect her. From what really happened." Elise frowned. "Then say it. Right now. In front of her." Richard sighed. Then said something that made Martha's knees buckle. "She wasn't just depressed. She had a breakdown. In front of you. When you were 5. She held a knife. Not at you, but she scared you. She doesn't remember. But you cried for hours." Martha's mouth opened. "That never happened." Elise turned to her. "Is it true?" "No," Martha said firmly. "He's twisting everything. I once had a panic attack. I sat in the kitchen crying. I was holding a butter knife from making sandwiches. That's the moment he's talking about. It wasn't a threat. It was a moment of grief." Richard shrugged. "That's not how I remember it." "Because you wanted to use it," Martha shot back. "To win. And when the court turned on you, you gave her up like she was nothing. I didn't. Richard snapped. Enough, Elise said suddenly. Both adults turned to her. I don't care who's lying anymore. I care about the truth. And I'll find it, even if I have to dig through every record myself. She turned to Martha. And if you are hiding something, I'll find out. Martha nodded solemnly. I'm not afraid of the truth, Elise. I've lived in it. That night, Elise sat in her room with a thick stack of documents she had requested from the city archives. In the bottom of one envelope, she found something no one had mentioned yet. A sealed letter. It was dated 2 weeks after she entered foster care. The return address said, Martha Langley. Inside was a single page. A mother's desperate handwriting. To whoever is reading this. Please let my daughter know that I never gave her up. She was taken. If she grows up and doesn't remember me, please tell her this, I sang to her every night. I never stopped loving her. Not once. Even when the world tried to erase me. Mel. Elisa's hands shook as she held the paper. No one had ever shown her this before. The system hadn't failed her by accident. Someone had buried it. Elise sat frozen, the letter shaking in her hands. The ink had faded slightly, but the words were still clear. Her mother's handwriting curved with emotion, raw, trembling, desperate. I never gave her up. She was taken. If she grows up and doesn't remember me, please tell her this, I sang to her every night. I never stopped loving her. Not once. It had been sealed and addressed, ready to be handed over. But it never was. No one ever showed her this letter. Not her caseworkers. Not the foster homes. Not the files they'd reluctantly allowed her to read last week. Someone had hidden it. On purpose. And Elise felt something break inside her. A part of her that had always believed she had simply been unwanted, thrown away, now trembled under a different kind of weight. She wanted me. She looked for me. Tears fell silently onto the old paper. And with them came another feeling. Anger. Not at Martha, but at the system that had kept them apart. At Richard. At whoever made the decision to bury this letter and never give a lost child the chance to know the truth. She stood up and grabbed her jacket. She had more digging to do. The next morning, Elise returned to the Child Welfare Records Department. She had been there earlier that week but had only seen surface-level files. Case summaries, dates, a few cold notes from social workers. But now she knew what to ask for. I want the restricted file, she told the woman at the front desk. The woman looked up with practiced calm. You already reviewed your foster placement folder, Miss Turner. I know, Elise replied. But I'm requesting access to the internal correspondence. The interagency memos. I know there's a deeper file. And I just found a letter addressed to me from my biological mother. A letter that was never delivered. The woman hesitated. That would require a formal petition and approval from. I have a legal right, Elise said firmly. I was a ward of the state. I'm entitled to my full history. The woman looked at her closely. Elise didn't blink. Finally, the woman nodded and disappeared into the back. 10 minutes later, she returned with a small cardboard box. I can only allow you to read these in the supervised room. No photos. No removal of documents. Elise nodded and followed her into a quiet space. What she found inside the box changed everything. October 6, 2009. Internal note, concerning the Langley child's placement. Biological mother, Martha Langley, filed an appeal through legal aid. The appeal was not processed due to incomplete documentation. Staff to monitor. November 12, 2009. Mother attempted visitation at temporary foster home. Entry denied per emergency no contact order, filed by temporary guardian Richard Langley, citing mental instability. January 3, 2010. Mother sent certified letter to caseworker. Included personal items for child. Letter filed under non-essential and sealed. March 15, 2010. Foster transfer requested due to child exhibiting signs of confusion and distress following letter reading. Note, letter confiscated and destroyed. New therapist assigned to child. Child encouraged to form new identity. Elisa's hand flew to her mouth. They had read the letter. And they had taken it from her. Worse. They had destroyed it. And then they'd assigned her a new therapist. One who encouraged her to build a new identity. A new name. A new life. As if erasing Martha would make the pain vanish. But it hadn't. It had only buried it deeper. Elise flipped through the papers, tears streaming freely now. May 2, 2010. Child begins responding to name Elise. Old name, Emma, considered a trigger. Therapy notes suggest continued distancing from birth history is emotionally healthier. I was reprogrammed, Elise whispered aloud. She left the building with the sun already setting behind her. The box remained inside, sealed again. But its contents were now burned into her memory. Back at Martha's small house, Elise walked in quietly. Martha looked up from the sofa. Everything okay? Elise nodded slowly. I know what happened now. Martha stood, her face tight with worry. What did you find? Elise held up the sealed letter. You wrote this in 2010. It never reached me. They buried it. And they destroyed another one. Martha's face fell. They destroyed it, she repeated, her voice hollow. Elise nodded. And they changed my identity. Gave me therapy to forget you. To stop using the name Emma. Martha sat down hard. They took everything. I'm sorry I ever doubted you, Elise whispered. You were telling the truth all along. Martha said nothing. She simply pulled her daughter into her arms. For the first time in 15 years, they held each other like they never wanted to let go. But peace didn't last. Later that night, Elise received a text from an unknown number. I know what you found. Be careful who you trust. R. She stared at it for a long time. Then she showed it to Martha. It's Richard, she said. He knows I went looking. Martha shook her head. He's always been one step ahead. He watches people. Manipulates them. Elise frowned. How did he even know I requested my file? He has connections. Always did. Someone inside must have warned him. Elise clenched her fists. Why is he still so invested after all this time? Martha looked her in the eye. Because you're the only person who could expose the truth. The next morning, Elise met with a retired child protection lawyer named Carla Jensen, a family friend Martha had contacted quietly. Carla had fought many similar cases over the years. When Elise laid out everything, the sealed letters, destroyed correspondence, therapy logs, the renaming, Carla leaned back in her chair with a grim expression. What happened to you, she said, was a long-term identity erasure. I've only seen it twice before. Both cases involve children separated during high-conflict custody battles where one parent weaponized the system. And no one stopped it? Elise asked. Carla sighed. Child welfare is overworked and underpaid. Add in a manipulative parent and a few sympathetic professionals, and it's enough to create a false narrative. She handed Elise a list of names. Here are 3 therapists and 2 foster coordinators. Who were involved in your case? If you want answers, you start here. That evening, Elise called the first name on the list. The woman who answered sounded cautious but not hostile. "Yes, I remember that case," she said. "Elise Turner. Or Emma Langley." "I need the truth," Elise said. "Why did everyone work so hard to erase my past?" There was a pause. "I can't speak on the record. But off the record, we were told by someone very high up that the mother was unstable, and that contact with her would emotionally damage the child. At the time, we believed it. Did anyone question it?" One junior staffer tried. "She found a letter, your mother's, and submitted a complaint about it being buried. She was transferred within a week." Elise's heart sank. "What was her name?" The woman hesitated. "I believe it was Sarah Wilton." Elise tracked Sarah Wilton down through a teacher's registry. She had left child services and was now working as a school counselor in another city. They spoke over video call. "I never forgot your case," Sarah said, her face tired but kind. "You were sweet. Confused. You used to whisper about a lullaby and a lady with sad eyes. You were grieving, but they didn't want to hear it. Why didn't you come forward?" Elise asked. Sarah looked down. "I was 24. It was my first job. When I reported the letter being hidden, I was called emotional and biased. They reassigned me to a different district. I was scared." Elise nodded. "You were the only one who saw the truth." Sarah's voice cracked. "I'm sorry I didn't do more." "You did enough," Elise said. "You left a trail. And now I'm following it." Late that night, Elise couldn't sleep. She stood at the window, staring out at the streetlights. Then her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. This time, it was a video. She clicked it, and froze. It was grainy, security camera footage. It showed a hallway. A woman, maybe a foster mother, walked down the hall holding a child. Behind them, a man emerged from a door. She paused the video. It was blurry, but unmistakable. Richard. And then, another figure. A second man, dressed like a caseworker, took something from Richard's hand. It looked like a sealed envelope. The timestamp read, March 15, 2010. Elisa's blood ran cold. That was the day her letter had been marked, destroyed. Elise stared at the blurry paused frame on her phone. 2 men. 1 child. A silent transaction. The grainy security footage had no sound, no context. But she didn't need words to understand what it showed. The timestamp said March 15, 2010. The same day the system claimed one of her mother's letters was confiscated and destroyed. And there it was, in the man's hand, an envelope being passed from Richard to a man in a gray blazer with a staff badge clipped to his shirt. Elise pressed play again. The camera angle shifted slightly, and the child walked ahead, holding someone's hand. Elisa's breath caught in her throat. That little girl was her. She was there. She had been right there when the envelope was handed off. How had she never known? Her phone buzzed again. Another message. No sender name. You've seen enough. Don't go digging where you're not welcome. Let sleeping lies stay buried. Elisa's heart thudded. This wasn't a warning. It was a threat. She quickly saved the video to her cloud storage and backed it up twice, once to a hard drive, once to an encrypted folder. Whoever sent this footage wanted her to see something, and someone else clearly didn't want it getting out. She took a shaky breath, pulled on her jacket, and ran to Martha's room. Her mother sat up instantly, sensing the panic in her daughter's voice. What happened? Elise showed her the video. Martha's hand flew to her mouth. That's the caseworker, she said immediately. That's Paul Riley. He was in charge of your case back then. Elise paused. You remember him? I'll never forget his face, Martha said bitterly. He smiled while telling me I couldn't see you. Said he was following protocol. But I always knew he was taking orders from Richard. Elise's hands balled into fists. He took the letter. Martha looked at her daughter, suddenly sharp with concern. Where did you get this video? I don't know, Elise whispered. Someone sent it to me. And now someone else is trying to scare me into stopping. Martha stood. Then we're close to something. That means we don't stop. Not now. The next morning, Elise contacted Carla Jensen, the retired lawyer who had been helping them piece together the case. When she saw the video, her expression darkened. I know that man, she said. Paul Riley was investigated in 2016 for improperly handling 2 child custody cases. But it was buried. Too many people wanted it to go away. He resigned quietly and disappeared. Where is he now? Elise asked. Carla flipped through a folder on her desk. I might have an address. He owns a small property upstate. Not far. But listen, if you go there, be careful. People like him don't want the past revisited. I'm not scared of him, Elise said quietly. Carla looked at her. Don't be scared. But be smart. They drove up the next day, Martha in the passenger seat, Elise at the wheel. The journey was quiet. Tense. A storm of emotions between them. But also a strange calm, the calm that comes when you finally walk toward the thing that haunted you. The property was run down. A rusted gate, peeling paint, overgrown grass. A mailbox leaned to one side with the name Riley faintly visible beneath layers of weather damage. Elise took a deep breath and knocked on the front door. Silence. Then, slow shuffling footsteps. The door opened. And there he was. Paul Riley, older now, balding, with deep lines across his face. But those cold eyes were the same. He blinked in surprise at the sight of them. Elise, he said slowly. Didn't think I'd ever see you again. Martha stepped forward. Do you know who I am? He gave a slow nod. Of course. Martha Langley. You never stopped knocking on doors. I didn't come for you, she said. She did. Elise lifted her phone and played the video. Riley's eyes narrowed. Where did you get that? He asked sharply. Doesn't matter, Elise said. Is it real? He didn't answer. I was 5, she continued. You were supposed to protect me. But you took something that belonged to me. A letter from my mother. He sighed. That letter wouldn't have helped you. You don't get to decide that, Elise snapped. You made me believe she didn't want me. That she was unstable. That she was gone. But the whole time, she was out there. And you buried it. Riley turned and walked back into the house, leaving the door open. Martha looked at Elise. Do we go in? Elise nodded. Inside, the house smelled of dust and regret. Stacks of boxes lined the hallway. Files. Records. Folders with old stamps from the Department of Child Services. Riley sat in a worn chair in the living room and motioned for them to sit. They didn't. I made mistakes, he said flatly. But I wasn't the only one. Elise didn't blink. Tell me everything. Riley leaned back. Richard was persuasive. He knew how to build a file. He came to me before your mother even filed for visitation. Said she was emotionally unstable. Had proof, doctor's notes, prescriptions. I didn't know they were taken out of context. Or forged, Martha cut in. He shrugged. Possibly. He was good at finding weak spots. And you? Elise, you were quiet. Withdrawn. You cried every night for a woman you barely remembered. When I read that letter, I thought giving it to you would break you further. You thought, Elise repeated bitterly. I did what I was told, Riley said. I passed the letter up the chain. My supervisor told me to file it under non-essential. I should have fought harder. But I didn't. Elise stepped forward. You let me grow up believing I was unwanted. Riley nodded slowly. And I will carry that until I die. Back in the car, Elise was silent. Then she said, he didn't even deny it. Martha put a hand on her shoulder. You faced him. That's more than most people ever get to do. I still don't know who sent me the video, Elise said. But someone wants me to keep digging. And someone else really doesn't. That night, Elise received an anonymous email. Subject line. Buried truth, last piece. There was one attachment, a scanned copy of a court-ordered settlement agreement. It was between Richard Langley and the Department of Child Services. A payoff. It stated that after a formal complaint against Richard's guardianship was opened, the department paid a settlement, quietly. In exchange for Richard's permanent relinquishment of custody and the closure of all claims related to Elise Turner, formerly Emma Langley. The date on the document was April 2, 2010. Just weeks after the letters were buried. Elise's hands shook. Richard had sold his rights. He gave her up. Not because he was forced, but because they paid him to walk away quietly. He didn't fight for her. He sold her. She confronted him the next day. He agreed to meet in a hotel lobby, public, neutral, bright. Elise came alone. When Richard saw her, he smiled faintly. You've been busy. She sat across from him and pulled out the printed copy of the settlement. His face twitched. You remember this? She asked. Richard didn't speak. I thought you tried to keep me. That you were forced to give me up. But this says they paid you. You took the money. I was being threatened, he said finally. My reputation, my business. You gave me away, Elise said, her voice cracking. You didn't protect me. You protected yourself. He leaned forward. Listen to me. You don't understand how dangerous the situation was. No, you don't understand, she whispered. You built my life on lies. But it's over now. I have the truth. And I'm not hiding anymore. She stood up. I'm not Elise anymore, she said. I'm Emma Langley. And you're nothing to me now. She walked away without looking back. That night, back at Martha's house, they sat together on the porch as the sun dipped below the horizon. Emma rested her head on Martha's shoulder. I feel like I'm breathing real air for the first time, she said softly. You found every truth they tried to bury, Martha said. I'm proud of you. Emma looked at her mother. We lost so much time, she whispered. But maybe, we can make new memories. Martha nodded, eyes full of tears. As many as you want. But as they walked inside, Martha's phone buzzed with a strange message. No sender. You should have stayed quiet. Now the past is watching you both. Emma read it over her shoulder. And her smile vanished. The message on Martha's phone glowed in the dim hallway. You should have stayed quiet. Now the past is watching you both. Emma read it twice, her heart thudding. She looked at Martha. Her mother's face was pale, eyes wide, lips pressed into a firm line. Is this from Richard? Emma asked. Martha shook her head slowly. It doesn't sound like him. He already knows we know the truth. This is someone else. Someone who has something to lose. Emma's stomach turned. Who else could it be? Martha thought for a moment. Someone from inside the system, maybe. Someone who helped cover it all up and knows we're too close to exposing them. Emma grabbed her phone and forwarded the message to Carla Jensen, the retired lawyer who had helped them throughout the journey. A few minutes later, Carla replied. Trace the number. And keep every message. Don't respond to it. If they're threatening you, they're nervous. That gives us power. Emma turned to Martha. I'm done hiding. If someone wants to come after us, they'll have to do it in the open. No more fear. Martha reached out and gripped her daughter's hand. I'm with you, she said. All the way. The next day, Emma and Martha returned to Carla's office with all the documents, videos, and the threatening text. Carla was already waiting, a printout in her hand. I traced the number, she said. It's registered to a prepaid burner phone, but the last location pinged was outside the old Child Services office. Emma's jaw tightened. That can't be a coincidence. It's not, Carla said. This proves someone inside was watching your file even after all these years. Probably someone high enough to still pull strings. Carla leaned forward. I've contacted a journalist. A good one. She's been investigating child welfare cover-ups for years. If you want, we can go public. Emma hesitated. That's a big step. It's the only way to make sure it never happens again, Carla said. And that no one ever buries another letter from a mother to her child. Emma looked at Martha. Her mother gave a soft nod, her eyes shimmering. Let's do it, Emma said. 2 weeks later, the story aired on national television. Stolen Childhood, the story of Emma Langley. It opened with the image of the old envelope, Martha's letter. Then came clips from the interview. Emma sat across from the reporter, calm and steady. I grew up believing my mother abandoned me. I was told she was unstable. Dangerous. I lived most of my life thinking I wasn't wanted. But none of it was true. My mother fought for me. Wrote to me. Searched for me. They erased her, and tried to erase me too. But I found the truth. And now I want the world to know it. The story ran for 30 minutes, including evidence of tampered case files, the buried letters, the settlement Richard accepted, and the footage of Paul Riley accepting the envelope. Within 24 hours, it went viral. Support came flooding in. Emails. Messages. Strangers who had been through similar stories. Former foster kids. Mothers who lost their children and never got them back. Emma received over 2,000 messages in the first week. But not all of them were kind. A few were cruel. Some called her a liar. Others claimed she was after attention or money. She ignored them. Then came the phone call that shook her. It was Sarah Wilton, the former caseworker who had tried to help her when she was 5. They opened an investigation, Sarah said breathlessly. They're reopening all files connected to Richard Langley and Paul Riley. I gave them my full statement. Anne. She paused. There's more, Emma. There's something I never knew, until now. Emma sat up straight. What? There was a second letter. From your birth father. Emma's mouth fell open. What? I never saw it. It was addressed to Martha but returned unopened. The system flagged him as non-involved, but now I know that was based on a form that was never even signed. He tried to get visitation in 2009 but was blocked by a technicality. Emma's world spun again. She had spent so long searching for her mother, and now there was another missing piece. Do you have his name? She asked. Sarah hesitated. I probably shouldn't give it to you over the phone. I need to know, Emma said. Sarah took a breath. His name is Thomas Reed. He's living in Vermont. He's alive. Emma sat in silence for a long time that night, watching the shadows shift across her bedroom ceiling. Martha knocked gently and stepped in. "You okay?" Emma looked up, startled. "I found out about my birth father." Martha froze. "He's alive," Emma continued. "His name's Thomas. He tried to contact you." "I didn't know." Martha sat down slowly. "He and we had a complicated past. I never spoke badly of him, but I didn't think he'd want to be involved." "He did," Emma said quietly. "The system failed him too." Martha's eyes welled with tears. "I'm sorry." Emma reached over and took her hand. "You don't need to be. You've done enough. You're the reason I found myself again." They sat like that for a long time. Weeks passed. Paul Riley was formally charged with misconduct, evidence tampering, and obstruction in 3 separate cases, including Emma's. More people came forward. Some were staff members who had been pressured into silence. Others were families, like Emma and Martha, who had lost each other to lies and manipulation. Richard Langley vanished. The news said he'd fled to another state, avoiding court summons. But someone sent Emma a photo one day, a blurry shot of him sitting alone on a park bench, feeding pigeons in a city she didn't recognize. She deleted it. She didn't need to chase ghosts anymore. Then one day, a letter arrived at Martha's doorstep. A simple white envelope, no return address. Inside was a short, handwritten note. "Emma. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know I'm sorry. I thought I was protecting you, but I see now. I was only protecting myself. I hope one day you find peace. I hope you live the life they tried to take from you. R." Emma folded the letter, not with anger, but with quiet understanding. She no longer needed his words to define her. She had already built her own truth. 6 months later, Emma stood on stage at a small conference, speaking to an audience of social workers, youth advocates, and foster care survivors. She had been invited to share her story, not as a victim, but as a survivor. "We can't change the past," she said, voice steady. "But we can demand a future where truth isn't buried. Where letters from mothers don't disappear. Where children don't grow up wondering why they weren't loved, when all along, they were." The audience rose to their feet in applause. Martha watched from the front row, tears in her eyes. After the talk, Emma stood near the lobby, speaking with people, some offering hugs, others just silently saying, "Thank you." Then she saw him. An older man stood near the exit, hesitant, holding a letter in his hand. Emma walked over slowly. "Thomas?" she asked. He turned. His eyes were kind. Uncertain. Hopeful. "I'm sorry," he said immediately. "I didn't mean to come uninvited. I just wanted to see you once." Emma studied his face. His eyes looked like hers. She nodded. "You came. I watched your interview," he said. "I didn't even know you were alive. When the system turned me away, I thought it was done." Emma took the letter from his hand. "I'm still learning who I am," she said. "But I'd like to know more. If you're willing." He smiled, eyes glossy. "I'd like that very much." That night, Emma sat with Martha on the porch again, sipping tea. The sky above was full of stars, not a cloud in sight. "I met him," she said softly. Martha nodded. "And?" "He's quiet. Thoughtful. Like me." Martha smiled. "You get your fire from me. But you're calm, maybe that's from him." Emma laughed gently. They sat in silence for a while, until Martha asked, "What are you going to do next?" Emma looked out at the stars. "I'm going to write a book," she said. "Our story. All of it. The lies, the loss, the reunion. I want people to know how systems can fail, but also how people can rise. Martha touched her arm. You already did rise. Higher than they ever expected. Glowing star final words. Emma Langley didn't get her childhood back. But she reclaimed her name. Her truth. Her mother. And her voice. And in the ashes of betrayal, she built something powerful. Hope.